on this by granting funds to Brook and its affiliate organizations and its branches and other organizations with similar missions to improve the lives of working equines. Mario runs ISAP in Guatemala, and they are one of our partner organizations. And I actually, in October of 2018, I had the opportunity to go to Guatemala with a couple of our ambassadors, and I got to spend time with Mario and see some of the sites, and the work he's doing is remarkable. So I'm very excited he's here to share that with you. So here at Brook USA, we ensure that your funds are put to good use. We review grant applications, we look for the most dire places of need, and then we make sure that all the donations are going to the areas of greatest need. So before we start, I want to cover a couple quick housekeeping points. You're all muted, you're all off video. I can't see you. I don't care if your hair is crazy. You're muted, so it doesn't matter if your dog starts barking. The only people you'll hear today are those of us who are on the screen right now. And actually, at least one of them I think is going to pop off and wants to go dark. And we are recording this. So if you do want to share this with your friends when I email it out to you, I have to first figure out how to do that because I'm still learning. But when that happens, I will send it out. You're free to share it if there's anyone who you think might be interested. So these other people here are my fellow Brook USA staff members. We have beautiful Kendall, who has the beautiful panels behind her. She's our donor relations officer. We have Bobby Sutton, who you may not have seen in person before, but he is our man behind the scenes. He's our finance and administration officer. And of course, Emily Doolin, who is our executive director. We do want to hear from you. Any questions you might have during all of this, there is a chat box on the bottom right of your screen. We ask that you just type in any question you might have. We will monitor those and try to answer them in real time, but they may get delayed depending on what's being discussed at that moment, but we will get to all of your questions. There's a Q&A box that won't be monitored, so if you want your question to get to us, please use the chat box and just make sure that it's going to all panelists and attendees. There's a little drop-down menu and you can look there. So now I'm going to introduce Mario, who is the country director of ISAP in Guatemala. Mario is an animal lover who started with ISAP in 2005 as an accountant, and he's been the country director since 2011. He's a business administrator with a lot of knowledge in handling emergency responses, development projects, and advocacy initiatives. Mario has led development projects to improve the working and living conditions of working animals, leading emergency responses to disasters like the eruption of the Fuego volcano in June of 2018, providing immediate support for animals in need in the form of food, water, and medical assistance. Mario told me earlier today that he believes that all expressions of life, like animals and nature, deserve respect and care. He believes that everything that exists and will exist has been created by God, and so as humans, we are responsible for their care. So that's sort of how he approaches his life and his work. So I'm going to pop on a screen share, and Mario, take it away. Mario?
Uh-oh.
You're on mute. Let me unmute you. There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, very nice to meet you all. My name is Mario Sapon from Guatemala. And as like Amanda said, I have been working in these foundations for a long time, trying to support animals in the country. And today, basically, I would like to talk about the current situation in Guatemala related to the sanitary emergency we are passing through in this time. So today, we have 700 cases of coronavirus at the national level, and we have a state of calamity until June, and we have a curfew from 18 to 4 hours every day. The airport and borders are closed, and most of the business are closed as well. Only the one related to the production of food and basic services are open. From the 22 departments that conform Guatemala, we have restrictions in 4 departments because almost 50% of the cases of coronavirus are concentrated in these 4 areas. But ISAP is lucky that being part of the humanitarian country team in Guatemala, we are basically able to visit, every part of the country in order to provide support to all the animals in need at the national level. We are expecting that the business will be reopened during the 3rd week of May. Of course, it will depend on the number of cases that may appear on a daily basis. And we are seeing the reactivation of the economy should start at the beginning of June 2020. And as a result, the economy is expected to start destabilizing in September. However, we are expecting tourism to start coming in January 2021. And until then, all the areas related to business tourism as the main sources of income will have no income, basically. For this reason, our emergency response will be focused on supporting equine owners that depend on tourism as their main source of income in 2 volcanoes of Guatemala. Yesterday, actually, we did our first emergency response in one volcano called Pacaya. Maybe some of you have already been able to visit this community. It's a very touristic place, and horses are used to ride visitors from the main town to the crater on the way up and down, and that's the main income of this community. This volcano has more or less 300 equines that basically rely 100% of the income in tourism. So right now they have no income at all. And what we did yesterday, it was to provide food that would last for at least 15 days. And we are planning on bringing a second load of food during the 3rd week of May, so they are able to have food for these animals at least for the month of May completely, as well as medical assistance. And we are trying to cover basically the basic health services of the animals, such as deworming, treatment for ticks, and also provide some basic services for hoofs, because we want to avoid those animals to get, in a very bad condition, so they may lose these animals. And in the future, when the economy is reactivated, they won't be able to reactivate because they won't have animals available to start working with the visitors. So we can see that they have a lot of effects, if animals are in good condition. Hopefully when the visitors start coming again to the volcano, they are gonna be able to restart working with their animals and ensuring their income as in the past. So as you can see, some animals were difficult yesterday because they were in a bad mood, very boring. So what we did was to provide the deworming with some food, so they were enjoying the food at the same time and not trying to force or to show inappropriate handling practices, which is basically the areas in which we mostly focus on to avoid, mistreatment, to avoid inhuman treatment, but promoting, proper treatment and also proper handling of the animal during all the stages of their lives.
So Mario, is this gentleman here, is he with ISAP or is he an owner?
He's an owner. He's an owner of the community. And this animal, as you can see, is quite thin.
Yeah.
Telling me that, they have not had the opportunity to have good food quality for this animal for almost 1 month. So he's providing, basic food. So this kind of food we brought yesterday will help a lot to keep the animal in good condition, at least, during the time that is gonna be difficult for them. Also, if you see this picture, this animal is quite thin already. Crisis started in March. So we will look for the way to continue supporting these animals, because if you can imagine if, these animals pass through this condition during 3 months continuously, they may lose a lot of weight and may be affected, for this situation. So if there is lack of food and lack of water for these animals, of course, everything will be affected, including, the hoof, the mental health of the animal, as well as, you know, the energy. We seen yesterday 102 animals, and some of them were very in good condition, some of them were in needed condition, but we also found a lot of animals very thin, like this one.
Oh, that's now we're into just some previous photos from some of your handling seminars and
Zacapa.
Yeah, Zacapa, that's right.
Capas, yeah. Yeah, this
We can go back and you can keep talking about this part. I skipped too fast.
Amanda, I'm actually in one of those photos.
There you
Right
are.
There I am.
Yeah, I can see Emily there.
And I remember that gentleman too. We were teaching him good animal care and husbandry and how to measure his nutritional format.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
This is one of the towns with more donkeys in the whole country in Guatemala. So it was very interesting to visit this place. A lot of small donkeys working for these people, for these farmers every day, you know, transporting water, firewood, you know, goods, etc. They work very hard. And these areas are part of the dry corridor in Guatemala, and they have a lot of issues related to lack of water and basic services, but still, donkeys are very helpful for these people, and people rely on these animals to ensure their daily livelihoods. And so for this reason, these animals are extremely important for them.
Do you want me to keep moving through photos, or do you want to just kind of talk about whatever topic you want to cover?
Okay.
Okay.
There's a question, Amanda, if you want to. It's from Melissa.
Hi, Melissa. Oh, Melissa asks, is Guatemala facing a shortage of food for the animals as a result of COVID-19? And if so, how can we help ESOP to prepare to meet that need?
Yes, right now, as mentioned before, we are focusing on supporting the equines that basically depend on tourism in the two volcanoes of Guatemala. And definitely we would like to continue to provide this emergency response, you know, in all the areas where we identify need. And I'm pretty sure that we will have need in a lot of different communities. So through you, you know, we can coordinate that you can support us, because our objective is to provide food, water, and medical assistance to all the animals in the country. That, as mentioned, you know, this situation may last, you know, at least 6 months more from now. So hopefully we are going to be able to continue providing support to this animal within 6 months' time.
So how, for these areas that are completely reliant on tourism, when there's no travel for 6 months, is there an emergency plan? Is there anything that there is for backup, or is it simply just the coming together of NGOs and other community organizations that can help support?
Well, the point is that, you know, there are several NGOs working in country, but they focus on, you know, human welfare, human needs. Right now, you know, we have several NGOs working on health related to humans, but nobody is working related to the health, the welfare, and the condition of the animals. So we are the only organization, which means the only hope for all the animals in need at this point, because we are basically specialists in supporting these animals. And we have done this before in several emergencies. And for this reason, we basically coordinate this kind of support, you know, directly through the people that rely on these animals for the daily lives.
Mario, one of the things is that, you know, and Amanda attests to this, so can Kendall, we have all been to Guatemala, is that these villages are so remote that access to population where they can purchase food or seek water is so far away. And with the curfews imposed by government, the animals are suffering more because people have less time to do their chores and get what they need, thus the animal is not resting, is not getting water, and is not eating. Needless to say that the families are not eating. So when choices have to be made, it's dramatic for people. So it is not that it's they always live in poverty, but COVID-19 has closed their access to food and water. And really that's what the issue is. Mario's work, and Mario, I didn't notice if you mentioned that one of the wonderful things about ESAP is that you are tied in, you're the only government partner that has the ability to help in animal response. Is that correct?
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, definitely. You know, public transportation is canceled, and the president is trying to figure out how they are going to be, the public transportation is going to be reactivated or reopened again. But they are writing some protocols because, you know, public transportation can be like a very risky area for the population because they get very close together and buses get overcrowded all the time. So they don't want to start, you know, buses, public transportation still because they don't have like the rules and the protocols in place yet. So they want to do it until basically they can. So right now there is something is happening, you know, equines are being used more because they are the only transportation for a lot of communities because there is public transportation. So animals are working harder. However, you know, because of the economy is being affected, people don't have work, people have been fired. So the animals are working more, but are receiving less than before. Because of course, talking about priorities, you know, the money the people is willing to get is used to buy, you know, food for families, but not for the animals. So this situation is affecting, you know, it's increasing the use of the animals, but is also putting animals in the most difficult situation because of the current economy situation happening in country.
Yeah. Mario, can you talk a little bit about ESOP's role? As Emily said, is it the CONRAD? Is that what it is? The emergency response team that you all are the one animal welfare organization that's part of this, right?
There is one protocol that was designed and developed by ESAP and promoted by ESAP and other organizations in 2000, that was developed and approved by the government in actually last year, 2018, fully approved. And we are one of the most, you know, important organization for CONRAD, which is the National Coordinator for Disaster Reduction. And there is a protocol to assist animals in need. And when this protocol is activated, we are able to coordinate support at the national level. However, of course, they support us with the coordination at community level, but we have to provide the resources to be able to support these animals. Mm-hmm. So legally, we have basically the open door to do it. We can work in every part of the country because we have this legal recognition with this protocol. However, we still need the support, you know, we still need the resources to be able to order food and medical assistance for these animals.
But so you all are kind of front lines when a disaster happens. I remember we talked about this after the Fuego volcano in 2018, that you all are the front lines and when it happens, you gear up and you're ready to go.
Yes, during the emergency of the fire volcano, you know, the National Coordinator for Disaster Reduction called us and they basically gave us the opportunity to support 18 communities. It was a very big emergency response in which basically we supported, you know, 40,000 animals in need during almost 2 months. And after actually the emergency response, we also built some shelters to protect animals during volcanic eruptions. So those shelters are still there and want to be used, you know, when they are needed. But that's something related to resilience, community resilience, which is basically looking after connecting the emergency response, immediate response with the development of the community. Mm-hmm. So we have already achieved that point in fire volcano. However, the other 2 volcanoes where we are working now, it's basically the beginning of the process, because right now we are providing immediate response for the animals. You know, if we have the opportunity, of course, we would like to continue supporting these animals until these communities are able to reach some resilience to protect, in order to protect animals by themselves. I did it with the shelters in the fire volcano, 2018.
Sure. Oh, I put this picture in because these babies were cute.
Mario, do you want to talk a little bit about what Brook USA has funded in Guatemala for ESOP? And does everybody know what ESOP means? It means Healthy Equines for the People, and that being the people of Guatemala. So do you want to talk a little bit about the work we have funded?
Okay, of course, yes. Brook USA has supported, you know, several projects in Guatemala. Actually, Brook USA supported the emergency delivery in 2018 in the fire volcano. And also they supported the building of 2 shelters we already have in this area. And as far as I know, it has been the 2 key, you know, emergencies you have covered, Brook USA has supported, in which basically we have been able to support thousands of animals in need that belong to the, you know, the more vulnerable families and communities of the country.
Do we have a photo of the shelter, Amanda, that we built? Do you happen to have one?
There's not one on the slideshow because I didn't grab one, but I believe I have one somewhere. Mario, I'm looking for a photo of the shelter.
Okay.
The emergency shelter.
I have several pictures here. Give me a second. I will try to share them with you.
And can you talk also, Mario, about the areas that you're working? Because it's the diversity, of Guatemala. You have very arid areas where it doesn't rain, and then you have very cold areas. So the needs of the equines are very different in both areas. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yes, we have, well, actually we just finished one project in the dry corridor of Guatemala. This arid, very dry area, and animals are affected a lot by the lack of water. And because of that, you know, these communities are very remote from the main villages, so people have to use horses for their personal transportation and to transport their goods, you know, from the markets to the big communities or small communities. So although, you know, these areas are very, very dry, still people need to have these animals to transport what they need to do. And although it's difficult with the water, they cannot survive without these animals. During this work in the dry corridor, we have different experiences. I still remember one time we were coming down, you know, from one of the biggest, the farthest communities from the main town in one of the areas we were working. And one lady was coming with her donkey and one sick girl. The girl had very high fever, and basically the donkey was riding both of them, and it was expected for her to take at least 4 hours, you know, from the community to the main town where the hospital was located. And it was very sad to see, you know, this situation, but it's the reality of this community. The only way these people have to transport themselves from these communities is through their animals, through their donkeys, through their horses. And, and although animals suffer a lot, it's the only way, the only means of transportation for them. And like this one, we see different, you know, difficult situations because people is very vulnerable in this area. And for a reason, you know, animals get used to drink very little water for a reason. And when you provide water to them, you know, it's difficult because you can see that they're, you know, very thirsty, but they have found the way to survive with those conditions because it's very clear if there is no water for people, there will be less water for animals. And if there is no food for people, there will be less chance of food for the animals as well. And also, this condition not only affects, you know, working equines, also production animals, pets. It affects the animals in general in these communities. And the other areas in the country, we have the opposite. We have one area which is basically indigenous, very indigenous in Guatemala, and in this area is located most of the people that were affected during the internal war we had in Guatemala during the 6 years. And there are a lot of people living in those communities very far away. And actually, when you go and ask them, why do you live here, very far away from the main towns, they tell you that they chose to live over there because it was the way to get hide from the militaries, from the army, because they want to protect and not to be killed by the army. So the only way they could survive was by going up there to the mountains and try to do their own communities. In this way, you know, these communities were developed historically. But right now, these communities are very far away from the development areas and have those difficult situations in which they have lack of water, lack of electricity, lack of drainage, lack of other basic services. But people basically have to live with it. And that's why working animals are still very important for these communities, because the development won't reach these areas very soon. So we have a lot of different situations in Guatemala. You can see very well developed, you know, towns and places and cities in Guatemala, and you can see also, you can find a lot of, you know, rural communities very far away in a very, very poor and basic conditions. So we have opposites.
Workout paused.
Someone's workout watch just went off. I'm not sure what that is. You can keep going, Mario.
Do you have the picture of the shelter?
Yeah, I'm sending them to myself right now. So keep talking for 1 second. I've got to take off the screen share so I can get them up.
So we've talked a little bit today. So some of you have been on with us with conversations in India, in Kenya, and now Guatemala, which are very three distinct continents, right? We're talking about Africa, Asia, and Latin America. And what's amazing to me is the parallels that exist when it comes to poverty. Poverty is poverty, and when people do not have for themselves, they cannot provide for their animals. And when the animals are sick, they can't provide for their humans. So whether we look at any of these countries in the world, their needs are all exactly the same. The programs may vary because the terrain is different, the culture is different, and the needs are different. But certainly the work that we're doing across all those countries is truly extraordinary.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we have been able to receive a lot of support from you, from Room USA, and people really appreciate that. Actually, when you have some of the communities, people have expressed, you know, what your thankfulness to the support you have provided, because animals are very important for the people in the communities, in rural communities, and we already know that. You know, apart from working equines, you can also see, you know, dependency on some other animals, such as, for example, poultry or, you know, cattle, which basically provide a lot of support for food security. So in cities, in developed villages, you know, animals are considered pets, or, you know, only animals to entertain people. But in rural communities, in the areas where we work, people rely on these animals to ensure their daily livelihoods, to ensure transportation, to ensure, you know, food security, to ensure water for their families and firewood for cooking. So they are extremely important. They are very, very good friends of them, and people in rural communities cannot live without animals. And that's part of the culture, it's part of the community dynamics. Which means,
Continue.
Which means that, you know, if these communities lose their animals, their condition will get worse, because who's going to transport the water for the family? Who's going to transport the goods from the market? Who's going to provide some eggs, or who's going to provide some milk? So if you see, it's not only pets for them, it's a way of living, basically.
Right. Melissa asked, and Melissa knows her stuff. She said, we saw the India, Jyoti showed us the India hydroponics, and she said, would something like that work in Guatemala? So Mario, talk about the hydroponics in Guatemala.
Oh, no, talk about your seed planting program.
Yes,
because
that too.
that's the equivalent. You don't need to do hydroponics.
Well, okay. Well, definitely, the food, forage is very important for the animal. It's an essential part of the diet. However, in the dry corridor, it's difficult, because if you don't have water, it's going to be difficult to plant or to grow any kind of forage. So for this reason, we have to look for a dry resistant forage seed in order to grow some of these food. And the most important in the dry corridor was to teach people how to storage food, because when you have very good rainy season, you can grow forage. However, the challenge is how to storage the food so this food can last for a while. In other areas of the country, it's easier because basically you can grow the forage and provide, proper forage for the animals. But the point over there is how can we help people maintain a good source or amount of forage of good quality, basically during the whole year, because we have two big stations in Guatemala, summertime and wintertime. And during summertime, we don't have any rain. And during wintertime, we have a lot of rain. So you have to take advantage of the wintertime. However, during the last basically 5 or 6 years, the situation has been changed due to the climate change. These areas every time has less water. So the winter time is getting shorter and shorter, which means that all the crops, are getting affected, because in the past they had 4, 5, 6 months to grow what they need to grow. Right now they have 2 or 3 months to do. So they are trying to be more effective. And of course, to be able to grow forage, we have to look for the most effective way to do it. We had a pilot project in the dry corridor to grow forage. I would say that it was successful until basically we were able to grow some of the forage. However, it was difficult to maintain or to keep this project going on because of during the next 2 years, we have a lot of problems with the lack of water. So for that reason, basically, people was very affected because of this issue.
Okay, hang on.
Did we lose him?
No, Mario's right there.
Mario, one of the things I wanted to compliment you on, because you forget to compliment yourself, but because I get to work with all the countries, one of the things I wanted to compliment you on is that in Guatemala, we developed a program of seed planting to teach people in rural areas how to plant, cultivate, care for, cut, and store fodder during the rainy season when it doesn't grow, or during a dry season, during a dry season. And then that program has been replicated now. So it initiated in Guatemala, and now it's being replicated in Senegal and some other countries, some kind of other countries within the Brook family. Mm-hmm. And we're now talking to an organization in Nicaragua. Brook USA is talking to an organization in Nicaragua to work with you and other members of the Brook family, because you are an affiliate, to build those programs in other countries in Central America. So it's how we operate, by taking on extraordinary models that are developed in one country, and then we move them, even if it's to the other side of the world. So I don't know how much you talked about in detail, but people in Guatemala have land. And because they have land, they're able to cultivate. And because they're able to cultivate, we're able to create fodder. And because we can create fodder, we can store it. And that provides food for animals over a period of time.
Exactly. The key issue right now with the forage is the quality. So people have access to food for the animals, but the quality is very poor. And if you provide, the only source of food is, the forage they cultivate, animal won't have a very good condition because the quality is very poor. So apart from, the forage, it is good also to promote, some alternative that can complement their current diet. So in the next project where we are going to be working very soon in June, we are going to look for the way to complement this diet. But of course, this is a different situation, because emergencies, you cannot be expecting for the forage. You have to provide immediate food, that can be enough to maintain animals in good condition. You can see a picture of the shelter we built in one of the 2 communities in the fire volcano last year. And this shelter has, a good place for the animals. They have places to drink water, but also there are some places on the top in which you can basically storage food. So the idea is to avoid that animals would eat at ground level, because what happened, it was that because the volcano has a lot of ash in it, if food gets contaminated with ash and animals eat forage with ash, they will get sick very soon and they may die. And we found a lot of animals dead because of that situation. So animals have to eat at an acceptable altitude to avoid contamination of the food. And this shelter has that kind of technology, which basically will avoid animals to eat and to get affected by this. This shelter has the capacity to host 100 animals. And the idea is that this shelter is used when the people is evacuated for any emergency of the volcano. So people is evacuated by the national coordinators, and animals remain in this shelter secure for 2 or 3 days with enough food and water. So when people is back to the community, when the condition is still stable, people go back to the shelter, take their animals back to their houses, and they can continue with their lives. Because in one emergency, what happens is that, all are worried about, of course, taking care of the people and trying to save their lives. So they go out from the areas of risk, they go out from the communities, but the question is what happened next when they are back to the communities. Mm-hmm. If they don't have any kind of, a way to protect their livelihoods, such as animals, so on the way back, they won't be able to continue with their lives because they have lost what they need to produce what they need to produce. So if they lose all the horses, all the poultry, all the cows, all the cattle, on the way back, they won't be able to continue. And the poverty will increase a lot. So one shelter like this can make a big difference for this community because we are protecting their more important and relevant livelihoods. So after the disaster, they can continue.
Oh, and I put this one on there because I thought it was very sweet that the Brook USA's logo is on there too. For those who don't speak Spanish well, thank you to, what's apoyo?
Support.
Thank you for the support of ESAP and Brook USA.
Yeah, these communities were very exciting about this shelter because it's the first time in history that they have access to this kind of support. So they were really thankful for this project because they said, if you look at the videos I sent, they say, oh, we are very thankful for support because for the first time, one organization has been able to provide some support to protect our animals in these communities. So this is history, basically. It's not a picture, it's history for Guatemala.
When, Mario, when I was out there just a couple months after the volcano, I was with Allison Springer and Ramon Dominguez, who are 2 of our ambassadors. And that was when you had first started talking about the need for these shelters. And I know Allison wrote me a letter when we came back, and she said that seeing these areas was life-changing for her, and the idea of what a shelter could do for those areas was incredibly meaningful to her. You know, I think a lot of us are used to seeing very fancy $1 million barns, or and not thinking about the reliance on, if you lose your home, where is your animal that makes you able to have a livelihood? Where is that going to go? So you really you made a big impact on Allison and Ramon when we were out there, and I sent them these photos and they were very thrilled to get to see them.
That's very nice. Thank you for sharing.
And then this is the fodder that we were talking about that grows. Kendall just sent me this photo, which was very nice of her. Kendall, Mario, do you know what she's growing there?
This was in Sinaneca.
Sinaneca.
Yeah, it's in the community of Sinaneca. Yeah, this is the kind of pasture we planted with this community. And, you know, from this pasture, they were making hay bales in order to basically storage this food for the driest season of the year. Maybe Kendall can share some of, you know, her experience in country when she visited Guatemala.
Yeah, it was actually amazing. So this woman right here, she came up to, I was there with JJ Tate, Casey Perry Glass, and Allison Brock. And she came up to all of us and basically dragged us to come and see all of this fodder because she was so excited about being able to show it off. So we have the 4 of us, Mario, and then about 12 kids that are trailing behind us in a parade to go and show us all of this green grass. And she just stood there showing us and moving it towards us and saying how it wouldn't have grown before. But now what she actually has done is she's taught the other members of the community how to do it as well, because what ESOP is doing and what Brook USA is funding is actually continuing the education. So it doesn't just stop with one person. So she teaches the community comes together, they help to actually roll all of this, store it, and then everybody within the community is able to use that as their source. It's really inspiring, and I can see why she was so proud of it. She looked at herself as the leader. Yeah. And it was just fantastic to see that sense of pride that comes with having the ability to change and to know how to continue to make that change.
Also, it's as tall as her, which is impressive.
Taller. If you look in the back, it actually goes up about another 3 feet. This was
amazing
part where most of it had been walked through. It's really cool.
One thing I wanted to, this is the beginning of a couple photos that I put together, Mario, about the proper handling, especially the hoof care. I know that there is a history, right, of maybe not being very gentle with your animals in a lot of these areas, and that what you all do is go out and help show them, here are some gentler ways, here's how you can ensure that the hoofs are healthy without getting yourself kicked or without having to be rough with your animal. So I've got a couple here. There's the hoof before and after the shoeing. Do you want to talk about how those, before COVID-19, obviously, how those community meetings worked, Mario?
Well, handling or friendly handling or compassionate handling is one of the areas where we work very hard in country, because the traditional handling of the animals is very common. And traditional in some communities means, you know, violent, aggressive, painful handling practices. So, you know, since 2016, we have focused a lot of our energy and, you know, and knowledge in developing proper handling methods, so people can see these animals as partners and not as tools. Because in the past, you know, people used to say, oh, my horse is my tool. So what do you do when you don't need the tool anymore? You get rid of it. And they don't really realize that they were talking about living beings. So, you know, awareness is extremely important in our project, because in that case, we can basically convince people and share people that these animals experience pain, you know, they have feelings, they have emotions, and also they deserve respect. You know, they deserve basically human treatment, especially because they are very useful, very, very important for the communities. So very soon we will be publishing one of the findings of the compassionate hunting project that we did in one of the areas where we are working, in which basically we will propose 4 methods to handle equines. One is related to how to desensitize foals, since they are very, you know, very young. So foals can grow with, you know, human contact, you know, kind of, you know, touch, etc. So when they grow, they are going to be easy animals, you know, for the future, and won't be necessary to pass through a very traumatic or very painful life experiences. So working with foals will be one of the key, you know, findings on our report. Secondly, we have developed 2 methods to train, you know, green or young animals for riding and for loading. So we have developed one process in which basically, if you find one animal that never had any contact, human contact, through our method, you will be able to teach the animal, you know, how to learn properly, friendly, you know, considering their needs, until the animal is willing and is able to learn how to carry the load and how to accept the rider, etc. The fourth one actually, is one method to rehabilitate equines with traumas. We have a lot of equines with traumas in Guatemala because of mistreatment. And mistreatment brings fear, you know, means having very defensive animals. So if you hit one animal on the face all the time, the animal will be very scary in the future. So when you try to do something with this animal can attack you because the animal is defending themselves. And the animal has an excellent memory, so they won't forget easily. So if the animal has had very bad, painful or poor experiences, once some situation is very similar to the one this animal has lived, they will relate each other and the animal will react. So we are expecting that this compassionate handling project through our handling method will really improve the lives of working animals in Guatemala. These methods have been basically designed for rural communities in where basically the only way they know how to treat equines is using the traditional, painful, aggressive handling techniques. So this is something that will allow us to change existing handling practices, but also influence the existing culture of the people. You know, actually beginning from the way of appreciating the animals, not as tools, but as living beings.
And one of the things that I found most interesting when we were at some of the humane handling, compassionate handling demonstrations is that, I mean, I have this photo up here, there's small children. There were kids from a very young age at these community meetings learning about respect for the animals and proper handling. And there was a boy at one of he was 16 and he had just gotten a mule. He'd never had one, he had just gotten one, but he knew he was getting one. And so he'd been coming to these meetings for months ahead of time so he could learn how, once he got the mule, how to properly handle it. And I think that's one of the biggest impacts that you all are having, Mario, in some of these communities, is starting so young, instilling the value of the working equine as a partner and instilling the respect and recognizing that they feel pain and they have emotion.
Yeah, it's very interesting because, you know, children in Guatemala start working at a very young age. Some of the children have their first horse when they are 12 years old, which means that they need to start learning how to
Very
work
young.
Since they're very young.
Yeah.
Very interesting, that's the way it is in the communities.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then they have to work to the field using their own horses. So our equine welfare program is very inclusive. We include, you know, women, you know, children and adults and elderly also. We have interesting cases with women. You know, this compassionate handling project showed at the beginning, you know, women were afraid of their animals. So the women have to, you know, go to the field to bring the firewood. But after some training, after some teaching, after some desensitization of the animal, women were able to use their horses for their purposes, which means that these women now can use animals to do what they need to do, their home chores, and they have more time available to support their children and spend family time. So it's amazing how one big change in handling can impact the life of the whole family. Very, very interesting.
I want to be respectful of people's time. We're coming up at about 5 of 5. So if there are any more questions, I hope you will please send them in. And I do want to say a big thank you to Mario. I loved this photo of the family too. Like, it's the family portrait with their animal in there, which I thought was a wonderful demonstration. Also, that girl is just so joyful. Just a couple more photos. This gives you a bit of an idea of how remote it is in some of these areas where ESOP is working. I mean, it's beautiful, but it is also, I mean, we had bruises on our hips from the hitting against the side of the pickup truck while we were driving up these very rocky mountains. I was also very glad I was not driving.
Just something else really quickly, Amanda, if you don't mind jumping back. And Emily, you're muted right now. You need to just unmute and then you'll be good. Do you mind
Kendall, before you do this, if you don't mind, Mario, can you kind of share with people the statistics of the indigenous population in Guatemala and the poverty index so people understand a little bit more about Guatemala? It's a huge indigenous population.
Okay, we have 60% of the Guatemala population is indigenous. We have 19 different Mayan groups from the Mayan civilization, and they grow in different areas of Guatemala. And this 60% of the indigenous live in rural communities, very far away from the main towns. And most of these indigenous people, you know, rely on their animals for their daily livelihood. So it's extremely important for them, you know, to have this access to these animals. And the level of poverty, we have, you know, 70% of the population live in poverty, and close to 38% in extreme poverty. Extreme poverty means to live with $1 per day for a family of 5 or 6 members. So the economy is very poor in Guatemala in terms of, you know, the index of poverty.
I am adding 2 more pictures that Kendall and Emily have sent me. And then we will jump back in. My apologies.
I also just wanted to point out something really quickly too. In the photo right before we had jumped into talking a little bit about the indigenous populations, you actually saw a donkey that was loaded with a lot of the wood to carry back and forth. One of the things that I know, Emily, you saw it, Amanda, Mario, it's a commonplace sight, is that if they don't have that donkey, you actually see the men and the women holding up the sack with all of that wood, trying to pull it from behind them and walking up and down these mountains. It's crazy to see. And I'm sure that we have photos if anyone is interested to see that, but it was shocking to me to actually see it in person and to know that literally without the donkey, they can only carry maybe what, a 1/8 of what the donkey can do. And they're doing it all by hand.
So these are, so here's some of the donkeys loaded with what has to be carried. This is a photo that Emily shared with me from her time there, about to work with on the hooves. And
also, what's very interesting about this photo in particular, and Mario correct me, is this gentleman is a serial entrepreneur in a village high up in the mountains. But one of the things that he has been able to do, he is a new made farrier, and as such, people travel from all over the area where he lives for him to do farrier work. Now, as you know, Brooke does not provide tools to any of these people, because if we were to provide the tools, they will probably be lost, stolen, or sold. So one of the things that has happened is they have been able to manufacture and create their own farrier tools in order to do the job appropriately. And those are actually a standard pair of clippers that you can buy for $1 wherever, and they have filed it and made it appropriate so that they can clip the hoofs of their horses. And there's tons of stories of files that they have been able to do, of horseshoes that they have invented, but it's actually really Brooke's work at its core. It's teach people how to do it so that they can do it for an ongoing basis. And Mario, Don Emilio, is that his name? I cannot remember. I think we lost Mario.
No, he's muted.
Yes, I think he's Don Emilio. I'm not sure about it, but you are right. This man is very, very smart, very creative, and also he has a lot of volunteer to improve, because as you mentioned, we basically facilitate one process of education for the people in general, so to teach them what they need to do, but he was able to go outside the box and look for the way to find solution for one existing problem. And this tool that is not originally made to work with hoofs was adapted by him to do it. So it was really impressive.
Cool.
Extremely
That's
impressive.
very innovative.
Yep.
This is from the handling meeting, I think, that Kendall, you went to when you were there.
Also from Santa Monica. That's Lester. Lester was actually teaching this man with the white mule. He called her Blanca. And this mule would not let anybody actually touch her before the session, because her previous owner had abused her so badly that when this man actually ended up getting the mule, he wasn't able to handle her at all. All he could do was stick a bridle on and a very, 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 very harsh bit. And he couldn't saddle her. She'd kick out at him. She'd rear up. And Lester actually worked with him. And in about 20 minutes, they had her used to having somebody touch her. They worked with her by having the rope as an extension of the arm. They introduced her to just being able to be brushed. They felt around her face. And then Lester actually also spoke to him about how harsh the bit was, and said that he needed to make that change because having a bit that's that strong in her mouth isn't going to make her happy to do her work. You need something that's a little bit less strong. And the man immediately said, okay, I'll figure it out. I'll get it. I'll do what I need to do, because he wanted her to be happy. He saw the improvement that had taken place, and it was exceptional to see just how quickly that progressed, and also how much he wanted to soak up the information that Lester was teaching him.
Yeah, Lester is remarkable. Are there any more questions? We've got a little bit of end of seminar housekeeping, but if there's any more questions, I want to make sure that we get those answered. Or Mario, is there anything else you'd like to say before we start wrapping up?
Well, I think it's very important to mention that ISAP is very, very thankful with the support that Brook USA has provided. Thanks to your contribution, your financial contribution, we have been able to support a lot of animals in country. And we have been able to support these animals in the most difficult time, as we are doing it now. So thank you very much. It's extremely important that these animals continue working for the community, because people rely on them. So thank you very much for your support, and also your friendship, because of course, it's very important that, we have a very good relationship. I consider you, all of you, my friends. I trust you, I fully trust you, and I am very happy to work with you.
Thank you so much, Mario. Guatemala has a special place in my heart from going to visit it, and we're very impressed with what ESOP does, and Lester is amazing. You are too, but looking at this picture of Lester, I keep thinking about how remarkable he is with showing. He doesn't just tell, he shows how you can properly handle an animal and be respectful of it. So we are getting ready to wrap up. I did mention earlier that today is Giving Tuesday Now, which is a worldwide opportunity to celebrate and recognize the work of nonprofits, especially right now during the COVID-19 pandemic. I think everybody's world has sort of been turned on its head, nonprofits included. And as you've learned today, this is increasing the need. However, because everyone is impacted, it's also reducing a lot of the donations. So Giving Tuesday Now, we're looking at it as an opportunity both to promote the work of our partners and our sister organizations. Thank you for everything that you have done. Also remind you that it is an opportunity. If you would like to give more, you can visit brookusa.org, our COVID-19 page, or our Giving Tuesday Now page, all of which will be very beneficial to all of the people you've heard today. But regardless of whether or not you can, we're so grateful for the support you've given us, and as Mario said, your friendship. Today we're also launching the Brook USA virtual race. This is between a walk and a hard place. It's leave your footprint and help a hoof print. So it's a fitness activity, an 8-week fitness challenge. You can reach your movement or your health goals while also changing lives. So you're leaving your footprint because you're walking or running or biking or riding your horse, but you're also helping a hoof print because all of the money helps support Brook USA's COVID-19 Response and Recovery Fund. So go to the charityfootprints.com/BrookUSA website to log on. I am registered, and I don't like to brag, but I'm bringing in some money. I'm not bringing in any footsteps though, because I've been at my computer all day. So I think that if you're interested, it's a great way to kind of team up and be a part of this for us and with us. So we also, today's a big social media day. If you don't already follow us, we hope that you will. There's our Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And right now there is a lovely photo of all of the staff holding up a sign with the reason for why we do what we do. We'd love to have you follow us, tag us, whatever you want to do. We just want to stay connected with all of you. There's Kendall and her sign. I put mine away already, so I can't hold mine up. Emily's dog wore her sign, so that was nice.
It was cute.
And I just want to say thank you to everybody. And does it look like oh, Kendall, that was you adding the website. Thank you. So, and as a reminder, I will get this out to you as a recording once I learn how. So thank you all. This has been a great day. If you've been with us for one or all, I hope that you learned something and that you enjoyed it. And if you'd like to do this again sometime, please let us know, and we'll try to get stuff arranged maybe in 6 months or so to try to do this again. So thank you all, and have a great night or afternoon, depending where you are.
Thank you very much.
I also don't know how to stop a meeting, so you got to give me a second. Okay, bye everybody.
Bye everyone.
Bye.
Bye.